Merry Hello, David. Merry Christmas to the three of you. It is this time of year my mind always goes back to my growing up time, my home, my family, and my friends. It has been said that time takes all but memories. I remember. A big, old-fashioned farmhouse nestled in the hills and plains of that part of Texas County, home of farming and ranching. There was a large family living in that house, a good and wise father, a loving and caring mother. My father's name was Wesley. My mother's name was Rosalie. Brothers, Taylor, Leroy, Wallace, Warren, and Rex. Sisters, Exene, Geraldine, Ethel, Stella, and Bessie Merle. We grew up with certain jobs and obligations to fill, depending on age and ability. We had good neighbors and had many happy times together. Walked 2 miles to a one-room school, had fun going and coming. On cold, bad days, fathers would take turns taking us to and from school in a wagon with a wagon sheet cover. There were no cars for any of us at that time. This house was built on 200 acres of farmland. The land was given to my father by his father at the time my father and mother were married. He did the same thing for each of his other children, 3 sons and 3 daughters. My grandfather owned many acres of land obtained through the homestead law. Now, a little more about our house. It was quite large, all frame, 2-story. Each room also was quite large. First floor was kitchen, dining room, bedroom, large living room with fireplace. Upstairs, 4 bedrooms and an extended sleeping porch. Each bedroom had 1 closet, a dresser, 2 homemade chairs, a long bench for stacking books, and so forth. We liked to sit on the upstairs porch and look out over the countryside. Neighbors, with help from each other, built their houses, some large, some small. Then, as children came along, another room might be added. I liked to look out the bedroom and porch windows and see cultivated fields, fruit orchard, and creek, and a creek flowing to far away places. There were many large trees scattered over the land. Cattle and horses sought the shade when the weather was hot. I attended this small one-room school through 7th grade. That was as high as any as they taught in that school. Next, I attended a large brick school building at Aylman, 5 miles from home. My father died during that year. Finished my high school work at Ireland, Texas. 11th grade was as high as they taught, because it was not an affiliated school. Living on a farm so many years ago was not all a bed of roses. A lot of hard work involved, but I have no regrets in that part of my own life. I learned, besides cooking, keeping house, helping with little ones, I learned living on a farm meant a lot of other things. There are fields planted with grain, oats, barley, corn, cotton, cane, and so forth. Made our own syrup, canned fruit, and vegetables. In the fall, more harvest time, another time of hard work. Living on a farm until grown up, one learns many things. Girls are taught to cook, keep house, sew, wash, and iron. At the proper age, girls also worked in the fields, chopped cotton, picked corn, gathered corn, stacked hay, milked cows, and so forth. We all worked together as a team. Before daylight, I could hear my daddy singing and whistling one of the old songs, Molly Darling, Red Wings, and so forth. Thinking back now, I remember how pretty they were, especially early in the morning. This was the time of day he got his horses ready for the field. They were fed from a lumber-built-up feeder. Their drinking water was pumped from a well into a long tin trough. I can hear my mother as she worked in the kitchen, preparing breakfast on an old wood cook stove. My two older sisters always helped. It was my younger sister's job and mine to see that beds were made and everything in place before we went down for breakfast. It was at this time we got our instructions for the day. Those too young to work in the fields helped with the baby of the family, and in other ways my mother might need help. I remember both my mother and Daddy both sang a song or whistled while they worked. Our neighbors and friends lived practically the same way of life. We accepted things as they were and tried to be happy. Farm work ended in the fall for most of us until springtime came again. My daddy died without ever having electricity in our home, never owned an automobile or TV, record player, and so forth. No special tools for making things easier. Our contact with the outside world was by telephone or writing letters. My daddy subscribed to a newspaper out of Fort Worth. Our mail was put in a mailbox 1/2 mile from our home. Our mail carrier carried a little cart pulled by one horse. The mailbox was by a creek, and we sometimes played in the water while we waited for the mail carrier. That daily paper meant a lot to my mother and Daddy. During World War I, it was the only means by which we could follow the happenings of war-torn Europe. They were especially interested and concerned because my 19-year-old brother was in the midst of it. Our mode of transportation was by horse and buggy, or horses and wagon, horseback, or walk. We never owned a dishwasher. Washed and dried everything by hand. Never had an electric washer. While growing up, we washed our clothes in the backyard, boiled the especially soiled clothes in a big wash pot, rubbed them on a rub board in tubs of water and lots of homemade lye soap, hung them on clotheslines and yard fence to dry. We ironed our clothes with hand irons, the kind you have, David, to prop your door, heated on coals in the fireplace or on top of a heated cook stove, ironing board placed across two back chairs. Yes, at that time of life, when I was growing up, would seem unbearable to boys and girls growing up today. We didn't see it that way, because most everyone lived on the same level. We did what we had to do, and believe it or not, there was a lot of fun and pleasure along the way. We liked to swim in the creek, go fishing, climb on haystacks, play ball, and so forth. I think we learned at an early age the meaning of do and don't. When my mother and Daddy had a little time, they liked to play cards, checkers, and dominoes. There wasn't much time for playing or just sitting around. I can remember my mother used to say, "While I'm resting, I'll do a little patching." Bless her heart. I miss her so much. Picture, if you can, Christmas and Santa Claus. Stockings were hung by the chimney with care, hoping Santa Claus soon would be there. And he was, always. There would be dolls and toys for little ones, wearing apparel, games, books, and maybe one pretty something for older ones. We all had fruit, nuts, and candy, sparingly and not wasted. My mother made 2 cakes, chocolate, my daddy's favorite, and coconut, my mother's favorite. Cookies for all of us. David, here are some little songs my mother and daddy used to sing to little ones as they bounced them on their lap. Somehow I find myself almost hearing them again since little Malone came into the family, and I find myself singing those same little songs to her. Hush-a-bye, baby, don't speak a word. Daddy will buy you a mockingbird. If the mockingbird don't sing, Daddy will buy you a diamond ring. If the diamond ring turns brass, Daddy will buy you a looking glass. If the looking glass gets broke, Daddy will buy you a billy goat. If the billy goat runs away, Daddy will sing tra-la-la and bum-dee-ay. Number 2. Ha, 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 you and me, little brown jug, don't I love thee? If I had a cow, if I had a cow that would give such milk, I'd dress her in the finest silk, feed her on the choicest hay, milk her 40 times a day. Number 3. Rock-a-bye, baby, in the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. Down will come baby, cradle and all. Now that little Malone has come to join us, I find myself remembering those little songs and how my daddy sang them to baby Merle. More memories. I never had a store-bought dress until I was out of high school. We bought patterns and made our own clothes. Had a treadle sewing machine. I made my high school graduation gift. Was given extra points in sewing class. My mother saved feathers from chickens, ducks, turkeys, and made feather mattresses on which we slept. From our gardens and fruit orchards, we canned fruit and vegetables for winter. We had our own meat and flour ground from corn and wheat. Entertainment. Families gathered together on Saturday nights at different homes, dancing, games, and music. There would be ice cream, cookies, or cake. Each family shared equally with dessert. In the summertime, there would be church gatherings. Each family shared in the food at lunchtime. I always enjoyed the singing most of all. After working all day in the house or garden, my mother would take time to go fishing with us. In the wintertime, we liked to play in the cottonseed bin. Cottonseed was warm and soft. My sister and I sewed little blocks together to be made into quilts. We talked a lot, told jokes, asked riddles, and so forth. What I admired most about my father was he taught me to value honesty, family and friends, have respect for good health. He also taught us to have a sense of humor and perseverance. What I admired most about my mother was helpful, good advisor, sense of humor, patience, respect, healthy body and mind. She often reminded us, pretty is as pretty does. There is always a sad time and a happy time in everyone's life. I think the saddest time in all our lives was when little Merle died. She was only 4, and our first experience with death. I think the happiest time was when my brother came home from World War I. After the war had ended, he volunteered for 2 more years of duty, guarding the Rhine River in Germany. During World War I, my mother and my 2 older sisters knitted woolen socks for soldier boys. So did all their friends. It was a cold, hard winter, and